Welcome to Glorious Botafogo for the second time because I am re-recording this video because I deleted the first one. Botafogo beat LDU from Quito today at the Newton Santos by 1-0, but it felt like we lost because even though we won with a goal in the first 14 seconds of the first half, which is the fastest goal of the 2025 Libertadores, there was not much more than that after that fact. LDU came to defend. They came with 3 center backs, 2 fullbacks, 2 CDMs, 2 center defensive mids. Oftentimes with 6 players behind on the goal line, 7 players. And sometimes playing on a counterattack, which they were forced to because their initial plan was to defend and take a tie to Ecuador, which it's where the game will be played next, and 9,000 feet of altitude, which is quite high. Matches in Ecuador, in Quito, are known to be devastating on the body because there's lack of oxygen and it's harder to breathe. You get tired faster. It's a nightmare. So for me to feel really confident about the second match, I would have hoped that Botafogo would have gotten a 2-3-0 win from tonight. However, that didn't happen. So our advantage is very small. And we're going to have to play really smart, and we're going to have to play with our emotions in check because it will be a very emotional game, both, in the physical aspect, but in psychological aspect. Playing against the fans there that are very good. They support the teams. They're very loud. They push. LDU is a title contender. No team in the Libertadores round of 16, I see it as a weak team. They're all title contenders. So it's going to be hard. It kind of reminds me of Botafogo and São Paulo, where we went into the Morumbi 0-0 and we won there. So it all can happen, but it's just going to be that much harder. In the second half, the team played very poorly. LDU controlled the possession. LDU controlled the most offensive actions. Botafogo could not create anything in the middle. Marlon Freitas and Danilo, they're not in sync yet. It's not really happening. I think this is the first match that 2 of them play together. Now we're going to have to play against Palmeiras for the Brasileirão on Sunday. I think they will play together. The injury of David Ricardo is very worrisome because Botafogo is already short on defenders. We lost Bastos from an injury that won't come back until October. We lost Pantaleão, and then we lost David Ricardo. So out of our 4 center backs, we lost 3. We had to use Marçal again today as a center back. And then we are close to completing the signing of Alex Vinicius from Atlético Goianiense, which is a good center back. But then again, what happens if Barbosa gets injured? I don't know what's going on with us center backs, but something's happening. It's very worrisome. It's very worrisome that they keep getting physical injuries. This is also a hamstring injury from David Ricardo. So we got to see what's going on there because maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe it's just bad luck, but it is worrisome. Now, shifting gears, Botafogo will play Vasco da Gama in the quarterfinal of the Copa do Brasil. It is a derby for Botafogo. There's another derby happening. So I'm going to switch to the reaction camera here. There is another derby happening, as you can see here, if you don't know. Atlético Mineiro and Cruzeiro are from the same place. They're from Minas Gerais. And just picture this. If Rio only had Botafogo and Flamengo, if São Paulo only had Corinthians and Palmeiras, this is the kind of rivalry that we're talking about. It's on the same level as Internacional and Grêmio. It's on the same level of Botafogo and Fluminense, of Corinthians and Palmeiras, and São Paulo and Santos. It's on the same level as that. And it's in terms of, security, in terms of being safe for supporters, is on the same level as Botafogo and Flamengo and Corinthians and Palmeiras, meaning it's very dangerous for the opposition. If you get caught wearing an Atlético Mineiro shirt and you turn on the wrong street and it's nothing but Cruzeiro ultras in there, you will get your butt kicked and you could die. There's been many times where supporters of different clubs have taking a wrong turn somewhere, or got caught wearing a shirt and train, and they have died from it. They've murdered. So this is very serious, a very serious thing. Botafogo and Vasco da Gama, it is a derby, but it is what we like to call the friendship derby, because these two teams are friends. Unlike Cruzeiro and Atlético Mineiro, Botafogo fans can show up to Vasco da Gama Stadium wearing their shirt and walk right in the middle of the Vasco ultras, and they'll be fine. Same thing for Vasco. They can show up to the Newton Santos wearing their jersey. They can hang out right around the front gate. They can leave at the same time as Botafogo supporters, and nothing's going to happen. So this is why it's called a friendship derby. These clubs throughout the years, throughout the decades, have always been friends. Very different than Botafogo and Flamengo. Very different than Botafogo and Fluminense. Although Botafogo and Fluminense, there are some issues, but not like Botafogo and Flamengo and Flamengo Fluminense. Those are very, very dangerous for you to walk on with a shirt, not unless you're in the stadium. Atlético Paranaense and Corinthians. This Atlético Paranaense, it's crazy that they're in the quarterfinals, because they are in Serie B and they're in mid-table in Serie B. Crazy. And then Corinthians is not doing that great. They're not in relegation zone, but they are not doing well either. For example, Vasco da Gama is in the relegation zone. Cruzeiro is like in second. Atlético Mineiro is down mid-table, between mid-table and lower table. Bahia is in fourth place. Fluminense is like in, 12th or something like that. Low on the table as well. So the only teams that are higher up the table here are Cruzeiro, Botafogo, and Bahia, with the other four being mid to low table, relegation zone, and then Serie B. So you would say that the favorites here are either Cruzeiro, Botafogo, and Bahia. I think the semifinal here is going to be Botafogo and Bahia, and the semifinal here is going to be Cruzeiro and Corinthians, and I'm predicting Botafogo and Cruzeiro final, which it's kind of worrisome because as of late we can't beat Cruzeiro. We've lost 4 matches in a row, I think, to Cruzeiro, and so this is kind of worrisome. But then again, a final is a final. If there's a club that goes out there and break these taboo matches, is Botafogo, and we proved time and time and time again. And this is a final, which is something that is in the Botafogo DNA as of very recent. So if there is a title that we can win this year, is this one. So if Botafogo loses here, then I think it's the Libertadores title. And then if Botafogo ends up getting knocked out of the Libertadores and the Copa do Brasil, then maybe I think we have a chance at the Brasileirão. But if not, I think the one that we have the most chance of winning, if we're still playing all 3 competitions, is the Copa do Brasil. I feel like this year is very winnable. Very winnable. And then another important information is the way that the social club has come out today to speak on the behalf of Botafogo, not on the behalf for the safety of the club, instead of solidarity towards John Textor, alleging that, hey, Textor and Eco Football, they need to take care of this. They need to protect the club, because Botafogo has a legal piece of document that allows them to dilute the shares in Eagle Football and take the club back, because contractually, Eagle Football has, as in they ought to, they have to take care of all of the debts of the club until 2028. So all of this stuff that's happening with the club, being negative 300 million at the end of the season after the most profitable season in the history of the club, they are responsible for that contractually in a contract. So whoever wrote this contract is a genius. The way the safeguards that they have placed on Botafogo to be able to take the club back is really, it's genius. So here are the options. The social club dilutes the shares and takes full control of the SAF because it is in a contract. It's in a contract. If they're not following the contract, then the club can and will take over the SAF. Option number 2 would be to side with Eagle. Option number 3 would be to completely part ways with both John Textor and Eagle Football, with both of them, and find a new investor, which the president of the social club said there are robust investments ready to be made if John Textor loses Botafogo, meaning there are other buyers with a lot of money that are interested in the club, in the future of the club, which is very reassuring. But I think the other with that option, the club kicks John Textor out. The club kicks Eagle Football just to be able to return and sell it back to John Textor. That could happen too. We all know that the social club, the previous president, and this current president are very good friends with John Textor, especially the last one. Very good friends with John Textor. They would never stab him in the back. Never. It's probably talks that they're having about, hey, this is going to be better for the club in the long run. We're not trying to. They're probably letting him know of every decision, of every step along the way. And my prediction is that that happens and John Textor buys the club back with the investment of Marinakis. I talked about how Edu Gaspar was at Botafogo, which only reinforces the fact that Marinakis and Textor are partnering up together to either sell Botafogo to Marinakis MCO or Marinakis aiding John Textor and keeping full ownership on the contract, saying that, if you can't pay me back, then I'll take Botafogo. It needs to be taken care of ASAP so it doesn't bleed into the pitch and affects the current results, because if we made a lot of money winning tournaments last year, and the only way we're going to be able to stay afloat is also by winning tournaments this year. If you got here so far, please please subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. I'll be back Sunday because Botafogo plays against Palmeiras on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. U.S. Central Time.